Well, you know, I guess the man who did most of the talking, he talked like a lawyer, you know, so he was using a lot of legal terminology and all of that, and I followed that. And then there was Dr. Judy Mikovits, you know, who is a scientific researcher who knows all about interferon and all the rest of it. But now, those are just people expressing their opinions about what the vaccine, so-called vaccine, is. But if anybody goes to the Moderna website itself, the Moderna company founded by Anthony Fauci, what do they say it is? And if you go to their website, what they say it is that this is an injectable operating system. So what is an injectable operating system? Well, what's an operating system that's in our phones and in our computers and other devices? It's what programmers can program. Okay, so then what is being injected into people called the vaccine is really a nano operating system that is programmable. And then along with that, that's one component of it. That's not the only component. In order to make that work, do you know what you have to do? Think now, man. Now, when we say nano, see, how small is that?
Extremely, nanoparticle, extremely small.
Okay, well, if we talk about what a meter is about like a yardstick, 3 feet in length. Okay, that's a yard. Most people have a concept of a meter. A nanometer is 1/billionth of a meter. A 1/billionth. So it's vanishingly small. So we're talking about something of that size that is an operating system like in a computer. It's miniaturization on steroids. Okay, so that's what's being injected. Now, here's an electronic component that is not living. That's not living tissue. We're made out of carbon-based molecules. This is silicon. So what we're talking about is the interface where silicon meets carbon. What is going to make that interface work? You have to have something on the embryonic level of cellular life that is so innocent and so pure. So that's why you have to have the fetal cells from aborted babies. That has to be a component in the so-called vaccine to allow the electronic components to merge with the biological component of a living cell. Then that makes that living cell attached to an electronic component that can be programmed and controlled from outside.
Wow.
And then the other part of it is what Dr. Mikovits was talking about. The mRNA is alien genetic code that gets injected into the cells and causes your cells to start making the S protein, the spike protein of the coronavirus itself. So it turns every cell in your body into a virus-making machine. Now, the coronavirus, the COVID-19, has 4 proteins. So the first vaccine gives you the S protein, and then there's 3 more proteins. That's why you have to get these so-called booster shots.
Right.
Because you have to be able to produce all 4 of the proteins to make up a complete coronavirus. So now what happens to a human being whose every cell is spilling out millions of viral particles? You become a walking disease. And that might be the description of a zombie. And I think we touched on that last week, that the CDC has already made emergency preparations for a zombie apocalypse. So how do they know that's coming? Unless this has already been pre-programmed, literally, within the cells of everybody who receives that operating system disguised as a vaccine.
Wow. So, for those who are listening, regardless of your age, regardless of your educational background, guess what? All of this, you can look it up. This is something that, this is not, some fantastic conversation where you can't check this out to see if this is real. And just to make sure with some of the young people, when you heard the word zombie, right? And zombie protocol of the CDC. Some of you all weren't part of the Instagram conversation that we had. And so we just want to make sure you understand that this is not something from the movie. This is actually real. When you go to google.com, just check this out. All you do is type up, you should be able to see this, zombie protocol CDC, and they have it right here, zombie preparedness. Wonder why zombie apocalypse and zombie preparedness continue to live or walk dead on a CDC website, where they give you the one-on-one on preparing yourself for a zombie attack. Does the CDC really have a zombie plan? Yes, it does. And so when you go to the CDC website, it gives you how to prepare for a zombie attack. This is a one-on-one on how to prepare. You see this Center for Disease Control and Prevention. There are all kinds of emergencies out there that we can prepare for. Take a zombie apocalypse, for example. That's right, I said zombie apocalypse. You may laugh now, but when it happens, you'll be happy you read this. Maybe you'll even learn a thing or two about how to prepare for a real emergency. So they give you a zombie survival guide and go into the better safe than sorry and the type of things you need to have stocked up for your zombie preparation. So we just want to make sure that you all understand that as we're talking about this, we're dealing with actual facts. You know, we're dealing with truth without boundaries so that we can holistically help one another to survive and grow, because we got to grow from this. And as we learn, maybe we'll produce a real community.
Now the takeaway point is, I mean, you're making all the right points, but the overall takeaway point is don't become one of those zombies.
Yeah.
You see, and how do they make a normal human being into a zombie-like creature with those vaccines, with those nanobots in them, and the embryonic cells from aborted fetuses? Now, a lot of religious people, you see, they actually have religious laws against eating human beings.
Right.
Now, some of the Catholic bishops have objected to the vaccine, even though the Pope says, go ahead and take it. See, so there's a lot of controversy in all of this. A lot of people are confused. So what I tell people is listen to everybody, but then you have to think for yourself, because it's your life. And there's no going back. You see, once they inject you, how do you take it back if it is a mistake? And think how often Anthony Fauci, remember, he founded Moderna. Think how often in the last year he's flip-flopped on just about everything. Yeah. Suppose he tells you to take a vaccine today and then tomorrow he changes his mind and says, I made a mistake. The science tells me that you shouldn't have done that. Now you can take a mask on and you can put it on and you take it off as many times as you want. But what about a vaccine that's been injected into the very cells of your body? How are you going to get rid of that?
Very difficult to detox that. One of the questions that came up to distinguish DNA from mRNA. What is mRNA and how does it differ from DNA?
Okay, DNA, that's a very good question. DNA is just an abbreviation for a much longer name, deoxyribonucleic acid. That's what DNA stands for. Now, deoxy, see, that's a Latin root. If you trace its meaning, it means God. So deoxyribo. In the Semitic languages, ribo is the same as rabbi. Or in the Arabic, we say Rab. It means the master, the Lord. So here we have deoxyribo, God, Lord, and master, nucleic acid. Nucleic means at the center, and acid is like chemical fire. So deoxyribonucleic acid, DNA. What does it mean? God, Lord and Master. The fire at the center of my being. So what does the Bible say about it? It says, in the beginning was the Word. And the Word was what? The Word was God. And the Word was with God. Then it says, after many days, the Word became flesh and dwelt among men. Well, see, that's DNA. So now, the DNA basically is the God molecule that actually is the blueprint for how to make a human being. Every molecule, every protein, every substance in your body was coded for, programmed for, in the DNA. But how did it get expressed as a protein, say in muscle or bone? How did that get expressed physically out of a word? How did it manifest into flesh? That's the messenger RNA. See, the mRNA, the small case M stands for messenger. So it's almost theological. If DNA is the God molecule, well, how does God communicate with the world? He sends messengers, prophets, teachers, with a message. So in the cell of a body, okay, suppose some injury took place. So, suppose you cut your skin, like I got a little thing here. Okay, so a message went to the cell from the DNA. Oh, there was a protein that got destroyed in some cell. We need 300 of those units to replace what got destroyed. So the messenger RNA comes out with that message to code for that protein. And then the cell gets busy and makes 300 copies of that exact protein, fixes whatever the injury was. We call that healing. We take it for granted. But how did it happen? The DNA was in charge and gave a command to the messenger RNA to go make a protein. It's creation taking place at every minute, every second. Why? Because it's God that's at the very center of our being. So what does the enemy to God and the righteous want to do? He wants to send in an alien word, an alien messenger RNA. Not the word of God coming from the divine, but coming from the outside, literally coming from Bill Gates. So what kind of message does Bill Gates want to send into your cells? A 2 or 3 generational genocidalist, eugenicist. He's hated black people, even his father, his grandfather. They all believed in eugenics, population reduction, but they didn't have the means to carry it out. And so now here's little Billy. He's got the means in his hands to actually carry out the depopulation agenda of his father and his grandfather.